Hi, I'm Adam Summer. You're listening to the Yerushalmi Talk podcast with the support of the Yeshivat Devar Yerushalayim in Har Nof, Jerusalem. This is Demai Chapter 6, Halacha 3 in the Art Scroll 58a1. This is a very short Mishnah and a very short Gemara. And if you're doing the Daf Yomi with us, then Halacha 4 is going to finish up the Art Scroll Daf. Meanwhile, Halacha 3 is going to get into the disposition of tithes when the landowner is a Kohen or a Levi and you're dealing with sharecroppers. Now, this is going to look in some way like the opposite of what we just learned, but the Gemara is going to clarify it. And there's a deep point to this very short Mishnah, very short Gemara, and it's something that you might not have known ordinarily. It does move the conversation forward, and it does advance it, and it is very necessary, and it teaches us something that we wouldn't have known or thought of, and we could have had a maloket on it without this very important teaching. So the Mishnah says, if a Yisrael leases a field for sharecropping from a Levi or a Kohen, the tithes go to the landowner because it's assumed that the Yisrael has relinquished to him all the rights to the tithes. Wait a second. We learned in Halacha 2 the opposite case, where if the Kohen or the Levi is leasing from a Yisrael landowner, and over there it was saying that unless the contract is explicitly stating that the Kohen or the Levi gets the tithes, the Kohen or the Levi does not get the tithes. And this is saying the opposite. This is saying that if a Yisrael who's going to go work the field as a sharecropper is going and leasing the field from a Kohen or a Levi, the tithes are going to go to the landowner. That is the opposite of what we just learned. It's a big question. So what's going on here? Well, the Mishnah is going to cite a dispute regarding another unequal division of tithes. And Rabbi Yishmael says, if a villager, somebody from the provinces outside of Jerusalem, leases a field for sharecropping from a Jerusalemite, a Yerushalmi, the Meiser Sheni goes to the Yerushalmi, to the Jerusalemite. Why? Because Jerusalem is located in a place where Meiser Sheni can be consumed. And basically, Rabbi Yishmael is assuming that the villager is assumed to have relinquished this right to this tithe because the village is going to be far from Jerusalem, and the Jerusalemite is going to be there. He can use it right now. The Gemara says, the Mishnah says, but the sages say the villager is able to ascend and eat the Meiser Sheni in Jerusalem, and therefore it may not be assumed that he relinquished this right, and basically he's entitled to this Meiser Sheni portion. So this first part of the Mishnah and the second part of the Mishnah are actually very, very connected. This is really just talking about a temporary condition. And you say, wait a second, a temporary condition for a Kohen? Well, yes, we're talking about a Kohen who is Tamei. And the question really is, if somebody has a temporary disability, like having tumah, which is not a permanent thing, you can clean your tumah, well, the question is he going to be able to get the tithes or not? And, somebody might say, well, I can't give you the tithes, you're Tamei. So, I can give it to somebody else. And that's going to be temporary. And over here, with Rabbi Yishmael's point, they're saying that, well, you, the villager, you can't eat Meiser Sheni because you're very far away, and I can because I'm in Jerusalem, and I can eat it right now. And effectively what this is saying that the villager also has this temporary condition, that he can't use the Meiser Sheni right now because Meiser Sheni can only be eaten within the walls of the city in Jerusalem. So the Gemara is going to rule in the Mishnah that because the villager is located where Meiser Sheni cannot be consumed, that all the Meiser Sheni is going to go to the Jerusalemite. And the Gemara is going to challenge this, and it's going to say, according to the reasoning of Rabbi Yishmael, if a contaminated Kohen was a partner with an uncontaminated Kohen, and he was a sharecropper in the other Kohen's field. So basically, one is a Kohen and one is a Kohen, but one is Tamei and one is Tahor. The Gemara is saying, do they perhaps not divide the Truma tithes? Why? Well, the contaminated Kohen is unfit to eat Truma. And, of course, they divide the tithes because the Kohen can become purified and it can become fit to eat the Truma again. So the same should also be true for the villager. And the villager's sharecropping for a Jerusalemite. And since the villager can go and travel to Jerusalem, he can go consume the Meiser Sheni, and he should be able to receive the Meiser Sheni portion. But the Gemara is going to differentiate between the law of a contaminated Kohen and that of the villager. So the Gemara says that there, in the case of a contaminated Kohen, he is able to sell the tithes to another uncontaminated Kohen, even now, since he can derive benefit from the Truma at present, and so it can be assumed that he does not relinquish the rights, and therefore he too receives a portion. But here, in the case of the villager, that's the guy in the provinces, although the villager is indeed able to ascend and eat the Meiser Sheni in Jerusalem, he's not able to sell it now. And since he can derive no benefit from the Meiser Sheni at present, he is assumed to have relinquished the rights, and therefore he gets no portion. So the Marafulda says about this that the sharecropper can obtain no immediate benefit from the Meiser Sheni, since it may not be eaten outside of Jerusalem and it can't be sold. And as for the benefit of eating it in Jerusalem, this entails a lot of difficulty because he has to travel, or he has to do money on redemption and then lose a fifth when he goes and he re-redeems it for food. So Rabbi Yishmael is ruling that in the face of this difficulty, it may be presumed that the sharecropper is really relinquishing the rights to the Meiser Sheni in favor of the landowner. Keep in mind, if you're very far away and you have to transport it, that's a very complicated adventure because you can't let it spoil, and it has some sort of sanctity to it, so you can't let it spoil at all. And then the question is, well, if you're going to worry about spoilage and you're just going to exchange it for money, the person loses a fifth when he takes the money in Jerusalem and redeems it back for food. So that becomes a very expensive proposition and a complicated one. So basically, Rabbi Yishmael is ruling that because this is expensive and difficult, he's just going to relinquish it to the Jerusalemite. Now, the sharecropper, says the Marafulda, can obtain no immediate benefit from the Meiser Sheni since it cannot be eaten outside of Jerusalem, but it also can't be sold. You can't sell your Meiser Sheni. This has some sort of sanctity on it. And there's going to be a debate, does this have sanctity that it belongs to the divine, or does it belong to you and you just have, you can use it and it belongs to you? This is a Maloket Tanayim. And the idea is that since the benefit of eating it inside Jerusalem is going to be one where it has a considerable amount of difficulty, then Rabbi Yishmael is going to rule that because of this difficulty, it can be presumed that the sharecropper relinquished that in favor of the landowner. Now, over here, where we're talking about the issues about Tuma, and that's going to be like this. It's going to be where, a Kohen who's contaminated with Tuma may not eat the Truma. Now, according to Rabbi Yishmael, the fact that the villager may not consume Meiser Sheni right now is going to be very similar to the fact that the Kohen who is Tamei may not eat Truma right now at all. So because the Kohen can't eat the Truma right now, it's assumed that you can say, well, I'm gonna have the right to go sell this portion to a different Kohen, or I'm going to go give it to a different Kohen. And so the case is going to be a little bit different. So the case, and really what this is trying to teach the idea of a temporary disability. And the Gemara is arguing that should a Kohen who is Tamei be prohibited to eat Truma at the present moment, in fact, the Truma contamination is not grounds to deny the Kohen his tithes, since It's just a temporary disability. And so too, in the case of the villager, his disability is also temporary because, as the Tanakama is saying, that he can transport the Meiser Sheni to Jerusalem and eat it there. And accordingly, says Rabbi Kanievsky, there's no reason to presume that he's going to willingly relinquish this Meiser Sheni privilege. Now, the reasoning by Rabbi Yishmael, if you're going to assume it's like Rabbi Yishmael, is going to present a case where the Kohen, who's Tamei, who has this temporary disability, he's not going to get the rights to this truma, because the person would say, well, you're temporarily Tamei, you can't eat from this, so I'm going to go give it to someone else, or I'm going to go sell it. The opinion of the Tanakama says, well, look, he's Tamei at the moment, but again, this is a temporary disability. This, by the way, is going to be a halacha l'maisa. And because that is going to be a temporary disability, just like you could transport the Meiser Sheni and actually go to Jerusalem and fix that, you can also go to the mikveh and you can fix your tuma. So to withhold it is not a good enough reason, because he can go and he can eat it later. So what we're learning from this is this idea of, hey, if somebody has this temporary disability, is he going to be disqualified? Is he actually disqualified from this? And this actually goes to a deeper, more ergodic point, which is that, look, the Yerushalmi in Berachot says that one of the reasons why the Mashiach is not coming is because of the winds of Tuma. The winds of Tuma are hiding away the Mashiach. This is in Berachot, Yerushalmi, and this is in the Art Scroll on page 24. And over there, this is really having the idea that we're temporarily Tamei. But just because you have a temporary disability doesn't mean that you can't ascend. And we can ascend as well as the Jewish people, and we can become holy, and we can make ourselves holy, and we can get all of the benefits that is promised to us. Just like the Kohen can get all the benefits promised to him, so too this villager can ascend to Jerusalem and eat the Meiser Sheni and get the benefits. So temporary disability does not disqualify you. Have a great day.